I've come across a lot of students who are asking interesting questions, and I'm surprised because there are a lot of misconceptions going on out there. And the only way I can explain it is to say, you know what? That was then. This is now. So we're going to talk about old school versus new school on this episode of Casting Actors Cast.
This is Casting Actors Cast. Each episode takes you behind the scenes and answers your questions about the business of show. Please don't forget to subscribe and like wherever you get your podcasts. Now here's the host of Casting Actors Cast, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting director Jeffrey Dreisbach with McCorkle Casting in New York. How are you? Hope you're having a good day today. Now, if I sound a little bit different today, that's because I'm recording this podcast out of town. I'm at the Hampton Inns and Suites in beautiful Kansas City, Missouri. For several years now, I've been coming out to UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City, to do a voiceover workshop. So I spent a week out here with the MFA degree students, and we end up at the end of our week together with a complete voiceover demo for the students to take with them for their showcase next year. So it's really kind of exciting for the students because we spend the time in an actual studio here on the university campus. And I have a really great time. I don't have to do any casting work. I end up just working with the students, and we have a lot of fun. And it's really kind of cool because the sound design students for the theater also end up having something for their portfolio. So it's a really cool time. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to try this. This is the first time I've ever tried to record a podcast outside of the studio. And so if it sounds kind of horrible this time around, please forgive me. I hope that the information is going to be something that is useful. And of course, this is that moment in the program where I want to say thank you so very much for tuning in. We continue to grow Casting Actors Cast. I continue to get great questions and all kinds of feedback. At the time of this recording, we're over 22,000 downloads of the podcast. It's very cool. What can I say? If you have a question, there are several ways that you can do it. One way is to send me an email by going to castingactorscast@gmail.com. So that's castingactorscast, all one word, at gmail.com. And you can just send me an email, and I will definitely respond to you. The other way is to go to the website, and this is a way that I would recommend because there's all kinds of cool stuff and information that you can get for yourself. One of which is a free downloadable PDF book on doing voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the Voiceover Workshop for Professional Actors. So I encourage you to go there. You fill out a form. The name of the form, or the title of the form, is Dive into the Talent Pool. Come on, that's funny. Anyway, so if you do that, you get a free downloadable PDF book. So here I am in the beautiful downtown Kansas City, Missouri. It's absolutely gorgeous outside. It's like 70 degrees and sunny, and I'm kind of cooped up in the hotel room because I'm dedicated. So I'm doing the podcast today. I was going to call it old school versus new school. You know what? I think more importantly, it's about what is being told to a lot of students. And a lot of that information, frankly, I'm going to be kind of brutal about this, is just wrong. It's based on concepts and ideas that were probably very useful maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but no longer really apply. So we're going to do a that was then, this is now kind of checklist of things that I think you'll find helpful as you kind of put and assemble all of these ideas together to formulate your own acting career. But first, let's answer a question that I got last week. So I was at Actors Connection, and I did a workshop, theater workshop with some college students. It was really a lot of fun, and Patrick asked a really great question, and I asked him if I could use the question, so I'm going to do that now. But the question really was revolving around doing monologue work, or I guess it would also apply to scene work for that matter. But the question really is, what if you get two different and completely varied opinions about your monologue work? In other words, if you're working on your monologues with different people or different classes or different situations, what happens when you get a completely different concept thrown at you from one director or one teacher, and then another completely different concept for the other. So how do you handle those varied opinions? Who do you listen to? And I love that question a lot. First of all, it's kind of a nuanced question, right? Because it could involve all kinds of different impactful pieces of information that, you might not be privy to. So let's tear that apart just a little bit. First of all, know that any opinion you get about your work is simply that. It is an opinion. I will also tell you quite frankly that sometimes many teachers feel like they have to give you some kind of feedback, whether it's really there to help you improve your work or maybe just give you something different to work on. And I'm not certainly blaming the teacher or not being negative about that, but oftentimes I think instructors in these professional workshop environments or these one-offs or these intensives, they call them, I think sometimes it's weird because you feel like you have to give something to the student. And so it might not necessarily be the most careful or thought out advice. It might just be to throw a change your way to think about. Try to throw something at you that you might play with and find useful. So first of all, it's just an opinion. Second of all, you got to take a look at the source, analyzing the source and deciding, okay, this teacher has a different perspective. Maybe they're coming from the world of film and television, or maybe this is a much more of a theatrical instructor that has a theatrical teaching background, and so therefore their approach might be, well, for lack of a better way to say it, a little more theatrical. So those are things to consider. The bottom line is, I would take all suggestions. I would actually work on both. And the bottom line is that you have to trust your own instincts. Trust your gut about the choices that you make. Because, again, I keep saying this, bottom line is that it's your audition. It's your moment to show us your work, your talent, your interpretation. So therefore, really make it about you making the decision and much, much less about giving too much weight and value to those people who are just giving you opinion in a one-off kind of class. So trust your own instincts on that, because it's your uniqueness in your interpretation that's going to get you a high degree of interest when you do that particular monologue. So thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you for the question. And any of you can get a question answered as well by going to castingactorscast.com, all one word, castingactorscast, or castingactorscast@gmail.com. So there you are. Now let's get to the subject at hand. That was then, this is now. So I'm going to talk first about the then, what the attitude or what the situation is, and then relate it to what's the opinion now. First of all, then the opinion was that the actor should have two different headshots, that the headshots most often should be one a theatrical headshot and the other a commercial or film television shot. In other words, the theatrical headshot usually has a kind of much more of a dramatic, non-smiling, happy person, sort of the serious actor look. Then the other contrasting shot would be you smiling, have a fantastic day. So it was oftentimes considered just a commercial shot, something that's going to book you commercials. Well, that was then. Now, you only need one good picture, really. Now, I like the idea of a contrasting shot to go as a thumbnail on the back of your resume. But you really do not need two completely different looks for your inventory of resources. And the reason is simple. Let's tear it down in terms of commercials first. The trend in commercials today is that real people, quote, end quote, real people are being looked at for the commercial work. So it's much less about you being a smiley, happy person when you go into a commercial audition. Therefore, the commercial shot really is not that useful. And so you still go in to audition for these things. And if they're looking for a real person and you have kind of a plastic, big smile, energized commercial headshot, it's going to kind of look like old school. So you don't necessarily need or want to do that, do you? I wouldn't think so. So the better choice is to get a headshot where you are being casual, where you're comfortable, a non-posed, capturing you in a thought or a moment that is really just simply interesting. Of course, there are a few podcasts I've done on getting the right pictures done. I don't want to go over all of those now, but that was then, the two different contrasting shots. This is now, and that is one really excellent professional-looking photograph of you looking like you're having a great day, but you also have something going on behind the eyes. It's not a posed shot. It's just capturing you in an interesting moment. That's all you need to do. Let's move on from there. Now, the thought process several years ago was, you needed two contrasting monologues. You need a funny monologue, and then you need a dramatic monologue. And then if you like doing Shakespeare, you need a Shakespeare monologue, and you need a contemporary monologue. So you could do a funny Shakespeare or a dramatic contemporary. Or you could do a funny contemporary and a dramatic Shakespeare. But two contrasting monologues were sort of the gold standard for audition material that you need to prepare. Well, that was then. This is now. You need several different monologues. I won't give you a number, but understand that if you're interested in doing Shakespeare, the very minimum you need is a comic Shakespeare and a serious Shakespeare. You need a contemporary monologue. There have been a lot of successful monologues that I've heard recently of students who have transcribed material that they hear on the television show This Is Us. Some of the best written monologues out there happen to be on this television show. They're just so beautifully written. Of course, all the writers on that show happen to be theater writers or writers for theater. So, that really is a resource for you to take a look at. Also, a contemporary monologue. A contemporary monologue can be funny. It cannot be funny. It can be ironic. It can be all kinds of things. It doesn't have to fall into those categories, but a really interesting dramatic monologue, a really interesting monologue that might have a funny edge to it, something that is dangerous, something that shows you off really, really well. So you need to, again, cast yourself well and have multiple monologues that you can call on. I still believe that monologues are a fantastic resource for you to continue your training. First of all, they're cheap. You don't have to sign up for a class. You could get together with a friend and do some monologue work. You can work solo. You can work on your own and still feel like you're being productive as an actor by working on your monologue by yourself. So something to consider is when you do your research for monologues, find as many as you can and pull out different ones at different times and really challenge yourself. Because that was then 2 monologues. This is now several, contemporary, interesting, edgy. Let's move on from there. It was always thought of that you weren't considered a professional unless you were a member of the union. In other words, it was always like, I'm going to join the union, so let's have a Jeff joining the union party. And everyone would get together and we would have these fantastic celebrations for those actors who finally became professional by joining the union. Well, you know what? That was then. This is now. And there are a lot of opportunities out there for non-union actors. I'm talking for film and television, and I'm also talking for theater. I guess my attitude now, today, is that you should not be in a rush to join the union. Scout out those theater companies, those theaters that are looking for non-union talent. Obviously, you're not going to be paid as much, and if you're interested in being paid as an actor, you might think that this is kind of a put down. It is not. It's just a matter of building up some credits on your resume by looking at those opportunities that are out there that might be non-union. Now, the question always is, when should I join the union if I'm choosing not to be union? And my answer to that is the time will appear. It'll just kind of make itself available to you at the appropriate moment. Please don't be in a rush to join the union. It's expensive. Both SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity Association, they require dues. They require a commitment on your part to only do union work once you join the union. And that might be something that's rather restrictive to some of you who are just getting started with your career. So that whole attitude about being a union member in order to legitimize your professionalism is simply not the case anymore. That was then, this is now. Now, moving on from there, the attitude was that you should always bring your picture and resume to every audition. You should just simply carry your picture with you at all times, everywhere that you go. That was then. Now, the same thing. You still need to bring your picture and resume, please. Sorry, I kind of set you up there, but I can't believe how many times actors come to our office, and the assumption is that we just can pull it off of Actors Access, your picture and your resume, and, so you don't need to be bothered with it anymore. That's just, frankly, not professional. It's not helpful. I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but your headshot goes down on the floor at the end of our audition day when the director is making a decision about whether to call you back or not, for example. And consider your Actors Access picture in a 3-inch by 3-inch photograph now sitting on the floor next to a full 8 by 10 color headshot. It makes a substantial impact and difference. And I am not just telling you that you need it for that reason. I'm saying it's just good professional habit. Your headshot's your calling card. Why would you not bring it? So get some extra ones made. Have them ready to go. Please do not forget your picture and resume to any audition. By the way, the technology isn't quite there yet where we can just pull up your picture on our tablets and just hand it to the director who can really scrutinize it and then, swipe and then get your resume. And, there's something still old school, I know, about the tangible value of your headshot and resume. And it's not been improved upon yet. It will be probably soon. But for the moment, please remember your picture and resume. Let's move on from there. The theme being today, that is then, this is now. The old school attitude, and I remember this when I was acting, and the old school attitude was your work should speak for itself. In other words, your resume has your roles, the plays you've done, the projects you've worked on, the directors you've worked with. That should be enough. So that when you submitted a picture and resume for consideration to a casting director or an agent submitted it on your behalf, your excellent resume should be enough to warrant an audition. Well, that was then. This is now. And now more than ever, your reputation, working and playing well with others, becomes an equally important ingredient in the process. So, don't put anything on your Facebook page that you wouldn't want your mother to see. Thank you very much. Also, it's your reputation. I see resumes that have only one job at one theater once. And then you go down the list and maybe there's 5 or 6 credits, theater credits. I'm just using theater as an example. And guess what? There isn't one theater that has invited that actor back again. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing, but that means I'm going to do a little more research and find out how were you to work with. In other words, if you do a really good job, if you are well-liked, then you're certainly going to be invited back to a particular theater or director at a different theater, but it would be the same director. So those are the kind of things we read in between the lines of your resume. So just make sure that your reputation, how you work and play well with others, is in the best shape it can be in. And I'm not asking you to be, super nice, super friendly human being, but your work ethic, your attitude about your work, your attitude about being an actor. All of those things can contribute to an overall picture of who you are and how you are to work with. So I guess the bottom line on all of these is please check the sources out. If you are doing something old school, or if you're getting information from a professor that doesn't really have an inroad into the current state of what's taking place in the industry, it's time for you to find another resource. And the way you do that is just by keeping your eyes and ears open, asking questions. Asking Jeff a question on Casting Actors Cast might be a really good idea. So, stay current. Stay happy. This is Casting Actors Cast.
Casting Actors Cast is made possible with your support just by listening. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Caitlin Clark.